It wasn't too long ago that if you asked me, what could I buy as a vertical form factor emulation handheld, I wouldn't have had much to say to you except for maybe the Miu Mini and maybe a couple of others. We are now in a position where most of the devices in front of me are vertical handhelds, and they're all in competition for the RG40XX V. So just a quick thank you to Lit NXT for sending this device. The reason I like to support these guys rather than the factories is the fact that they do global shipping, and specifically to countries like where I am in South Africa. It's quick and affordable, and it's just easy to get these devices from places like Lit NXT. So thank you to them for supporting the channel. And so what are the competitors? We've got the RG4005V. We've even got, you know, the obvious like OG hardware, but also the copycat hardware like the funny playing Game Boy Color copy, Anbernic's own RG35XX Plus, PowerKitty V thingy, I can't remember the V10, and we've got the Miu Mini Plus, which I have a video out saying that this is the GOAT. Still think it's the GOAT. And then we've got the square form factor. So we've got the RGB30 from PowerKitty. One of my favorite devices of the year is the Anbernic RG Cube. Horizontal, but I feel like it does compete in this arena. And then also you've got all the other XX line devices to consider. There's a horizontal form factor of this called the RG40XXH. And there's a bunch of other ones, like I mentioned, the RG35XX Plus, there's others. Oh, and the PowerKitty RG20SX, which I think, now that I'm filming this, is one of the better competitors because it is affordable, plays everything that this plays, and has that square screen, which I love. I just gave one of these away to some family members who are thoroughly enjoying it. So yeah, like I said, there is some serious competition out there. And let's get through the video. I would have put all the prices while I was saying that now. And so let's get through the video and you can decide whether that pricing is worth it. And you can come back to the section of the video and check the prices and decide for yourself. And I didn't mention the Analogue Pocket. This is a poor man's Analogue Pocket. So there's two ways of looking at this. You've got all of these devices that it's competing with, emulation devices. But then you can also look at the Analogue Pocket, which obviously does have a cartridge slot, which is its big selling point. But in terms of look and feel, this is a lovely looking device, just like the Analogue Pocket, and plays thousands of games. But before we talk about the standout features of this device, let's quickly talk about PCBWay. PCBWay are expert manufacturers of PCBs, PCB assembly, 3D printing, and milling. They have an excellent website where you can go on there, add all your specs, and order your PCB or your 3D prints or your CNC milling straight on their website. They also wanted me to tell you that they are running a competition. This is their 7th design competition. They ran one last year. And it's actually pretty cool. If you've been working on an electronics project, you've been tinkering around with some sort of idea that you've been working on, now's the time to get it done because you can win some good prizes with PCBWay. First prize is a $15,000 cash prize plus a $200 coupon for their website. Second prize is a $1,000 cash prize with a $100 coupon. And third prize is a $500 cash prize with a $50 coupon. That's a pretty decent giveaway. So check out PCBWay and thank you so much to them for supporting my channel. So the first standout feature is that it is a very good design for $86. Now we'll talk about the performance and all that sort of thing, but you know, you're getting a really beautiful design. It looks a lot like the Analogue Pocket. There's an RGB LED thingy over here, and overall just a very pretty device with some cool colors: black, see-through black, white, and this interesting blue color, which we'll talk about just now. And it's no secret that Anbernic do make excellent hardware, and they're surprisingly getting better and better, even though they're pumping devices out at an incredible rate. It is concerning to me that there are so many devices coming out so quickly, but they are all very good. So I don't know where Anbernic are headed to this. I hope that they will just settle with these for a while and move on to higher end devices. That's kind of my prediction, but who knows? The development of custom firmware has slowed down. I'm not sure what's happening with Mustard OS, MuOS, but that is a nice one to put on here when it is finally available. I do know that Nulli OS, KNULLI, which has been set up for the 40XXH, is available. If you use the 40XXH version, it does work on this. So we'll check that out later in the video. And then the only critical issue I can really point out here is the operating system. You know, the more I used it, they've really worked on it, and every iteration just feels like it gets better, but the UI just isn't nice. Like the backdrops that they use are still ugly, and the icons are still very like early Linux days. It just feels old, and you know, it could look really pretty. Okay, let's talk about the hardware. We've got the same chipset that we've got in all these XX devices, the H700 chipset. I just think they found these chips at a very cheap rate and decided to use them and make all their low-end devices with this chip. So in terms of the buttons, now the D-pad, so if I look at the RG4005V, this D-pad was nice, but the presses, even after like I had a bad flu and I spent a week in bed playing this, I played this for quite some time. It's still very firm, this D-pad. Whereas this D-pad is a lot like floppier, and I feel like that is great because it is more of a retro style D-pad. And it's got this nice Anbernic D-pad, the plastic, the actual plastic of the D-pad. I really like that, and I've always liked that. The same as the RG4005V. Then we've got the action buttons, which I really like. Again, they are soft to press, really nice feeling. I am a fan of the controls on this device. We've got the shoulder buttons, which are a nice dull click, which is also lovely. We've got a reset button, which is a little bit easy to press. The power button, which has got a quick like sleep mode. We've got volume buttons on the side, 2 SD cards. This one's shipped with a 64 gig, just a single SD card, but you can add more games on the other side. We're going to talk about that later, but I really don't think you need any more than that. We've got the volume grid over here on the corner, which is very sort of OG Game Boy style, but you know, there isn't a huge chamfer. So the thing on a Game Boy is it's got this very hectic chamfer, so if you do cover it, there's still a chance that some sound could come out. This has got a very slight drop off there, and so honestly I haven't really covered it, and the reason for that is your hand hits here and your thumb goes there. It's quite low down from the button, so the chances of actually kind of mushing here and touching it are quite low. So it's a well-positioned volume grid. And then the joystick, it's the same Anbernic situation with the joystick. People complain about the fact that it snaps to cardinals, which means it snaps to the horizontal and the vertical, but I really don't have a problem with that on these devices because I feel like they are meant for older games, and really this joystick is just an afterthought. It's just for in case. So people are harping on about it snapping to cardinals. I understand. We're going to look at some games where it is a bit of a frustration, but overall, you know, playing Game Boy, playing Mega Drive, playing NES on here, this is not going to be an issue. And I have been sort of pressing the action buttons just to see if they scrape. And honestly, like we aren't getting a lot of body scrape with these buttons that have been coming out lately, even with Parkitty. So well done to everyone. There's obviously a secret to not getting body scrape, and they've figured it out. And I've been doing this sitting at my desk, writing the script, and while I've been playing in bed, and doesn't seem to have any body scrape. Now this LED is pretty cool. We can go into the settings here. You can switch it on and off. They have modes, so you can have it breathing, you can have it always on mode, you can have it breathe really fast. You can have the simulator phantom. I think that's something that happens while you're playing. There's a joystick chasing light, which is, oh, I'm gonna leave that one on. And then the rainbow. There's a monochromatic rainbow where the rainbow flashes through, and then there's a multicolor rainbow where it just kind of cycles through, which is also one of my favorites, but I'm gonna go with this joystick chasing light. Also, you can set the brightness. A little tip is use the shoulder buttons to change the parameters. It just goes in 20 increments, whereas if you use the D-pad, it takes forever because it goes in single-digit increments. I'm actually going to drop the brightness a bit more here. Colors are a pain because colors, you have to mix them. So you've got red, green, and blue, and you have to mix the colors. So you'll have to go to a color chart online to find the numbers or whatever, the ratios, so that you could get the correct colors. And now for something that I haven't done in a little while, but Anbernic, I know you're not watching this. Well done. It is the most silent Anbernic I have. Okay, the RG4065 V was good. The Cube was good, but it's more silent than the Cube. 35XX. Power Kitty? Better, but this is better than the Power Kitty V10. RG40XX? I don't think I did a shake test in my video for the 40XX, so that's good. Power Kitty 20SX. So well done. Like, one of the most silent devices that have come out for the year. So, and now for your favorite time of the video, crotch time. I do have tracksuit pants on today, so that is a little bit better. So it's pocketable, but it isn't pocketable. You know what I mean? It's like, it fits in my tracksuit pants, but for goodness sake, it's a huge bulge. So it's pocketable, but not pocketable. Anbernic are pretty lackluster with their cases, but you might consider getting a case for this. But if you want to go like super retro, get your granny to make you a little knitted pouch for this. Or you could get Crystal from Crystal is Cozy. She is into crocheting and knitting. She could make you one and post it to you for $40 DHL. And then something I haven't mentioned yet is the Handfeel. And this texture is like really, really nice. It's a lovely plastic. If I compare it, I like the RG4065 V plastic. It's got a nice subtle texture to it. This as well. This was very smooth. I like the little grippiness at the back. This is very smooth, which I don't enjoy. RGB20SX has got a nice plastic out. It's like almost feels like it's got a rubber texture, but it isn't rubber. This is quite smooth, the MIU Mini Plus. But this has got a definite texture to the plastic compared to all of these, and I'm there for it. I really like it. It's a nice feeling in the hand, and it's got this lovely, I talk about chamfering. So often when people make devices, they don't finish off the plastic to save time in the factory. But these buttons, there's no sharp edges around these shoulder buttons. You don't feel any sharp edges as you grab it. In here, you can feel that they save time. Here, by the buttons, there's no chamfering. But as you hold the device, there are no sharp edges, and it really does feel good. And then my overall perceived quality rating out of 5, I'll give it a 4. I think the only reason I wouldn't give it a 5 is because it's sort of very plasticky, but you know, that is what it is. I wouldn't give it a 5, I'll give it a 4. Okay, we're gonna do an audio test. And I'd say it's a little bit better than the MIU Mini Plus. It's not as good as these other two more expensive devices. But yeah, it is what it is. It's not great audio, it's okay. Battery life, I haven't done a gaming test yet, and that's where I do the sort of extended battery life test, so I will put that on the screen. What I will say is that this arrived from the factory at 90%, and I've had it now for a week, like 5 days. And I play a little bit, I test a little bit, write on my script, put the power to sleep. I've switched it off maybe twice. So this has been sitting on standby. So when these devices first started, I said it's not a real sleep mode. Whatever they're doing with the sleep mode, it's working. Also, the screen shuts down quite quickly. So it's constantly saving battery, and it's only a 3000 milliamp hour battery. So somehow they've worked their wizardry with that, and it's working really well. And the power management is actually exceptional. That is quite a big deal. When these H700 devices started, it was atrocious. So there you go. Anbernic say that you'll get 6 hours of battery life. I don't think that's constant gaming, but 6 hours of battery life, you know, if it's on permanently, that sounds pretty realistic. So Anbernic brought out the RG4065V, which is a big fat boy, and it's ugly. I mean, this is not a pretty device, but somehow it won my heart. I still like this device. And the reason for that is I spent some time with it. I played a lot with it as my personal device, and it's this grippiness. They've got this grip, very chunky, and it's the only vertical device that I would say is ergonomic. It's a very nice device to play. It's got a good sort of purchase on it. When you grip it, your thumbs end up in the right spots. Very nice. Obviously, joysticks never great on a vertical device, but this kind of made a plan. This is not that. This is a form over function. It's a brick style, and that goes a long way for aesthetics, but in terms of ergonomics, this thing just isn't winning any awards. My fingers go over here, and so I get a nice sort of finger grip on the shoulder buttons, but then my thumbs are sort of here. The only good grip I can get is if I do this, there, that's a good gaming. To do my typical fingers on the edge, it's not gonna work. So it's not ergonomic, but it is a pretty device, and yeah, pros and cons, man. And then to go on about its prettiness, you get this in clear black, white, and indigo blue. Now, if you look at the website indicates that it looks like this sort of deep blue. And I'm not a fan of this blue. I mean, I don't know what I said in my video, but over time I've just realized I don't like this blue. It's okay, but it's not a very nice blue. It is kind of an indigo blue. It's like a dark pastel blue. And I really like it. It's like it fits in with the light black, the clear black, the white, and this. It really is a lovely color, and it does feel like maybe Anbernic took a little bit of time choosing this. Then, if you look closely, you realize, okay, the buttons are matching, the color, the D-pad is matching. Now, they matched this, but this is actually off-white, and this is pristine white, which doesn't actually bug me. It looks cute and all that, but this is properly matching. This is the same color everywhere. And they've managed to match this joystick perfectly. That's often difficult to do. And so it really is a beautiful device. They've managed to get the screen to go all the way to the edge. Now, when you switch it on, you do actually have a little bezel on the edge here, but it does aesthetically, you know, that sort of bezel-less design is very pretty and very 2024. And you know, there's something to be said about that. In 2024, what we're looking for, if we're talking strictly emulation, you know, we're not debating, oh, you should get cartridges and all this kind of thing. I want an emulation device. We want something that is modern with a hint of history. We don't want them to remake the Game Boy. As much as I go on about how, you know, this is the best thing that was ever made, and ergonomically you make it chunky, all that sort of thing, and you know, learn from the lessons of the past. But this is taking that very modern, like the Analogue Pocket is, very modern, very cool, but is still a hint of the past. That's kind of what you want. So aesthetically, Anbernic really, really nailed this. Okay, so we're going to do a little down and dirty off-the-cuff connectivity test here. So I've got my wired controller. We're putting it in so this is DC OTG, which means it's an on-the-go connection as well. And this does have HDMI output, so you could technically wire a controller to here and plug this into your TV. Okay, so I mapped it quickly in RetroArch. So if you don't know, if this freaks you out now, realizing that you're going to have to map your controller because now it is working, all you need to do is check out my review of the Retroid dock. I go through extensively how to map controllers in RetroArch, so check out that video if you are worried about that. It's not as confusing as you might think. Usually RetroArch picks it up automatically. There is that possibility that RetroArch just picks it up automatically depending on your controller, but it looks like probably you're going to have to map it. Alright, so now let's connect a Bluetooth controller and see what that does. I'm using this lovely 8-bit do emerald green from Acnes on Amazon. Now we're going to see if it actually works in RetroArch. Let's see, it's using the menu system. Yep, that works. Okay, now we're going to test the HDMI. This is a HDMI to mini HDMI converter. So let's plug this in here. Yeah, that's playing. Okay, now let's turn the volume up. Yeah, volume up to full volume. It's going to the speaker because it's not coming out of here. That's how that works. Okay, I'm going to talk about the user interface and kind of tie a ribbon on, is this a good user interface, or should you look at something like the MIUI Mini Plus that has just a nicer user interface with Onion OS? Here's my verdict. There are some glaring things missing. For instance, one thing I thought of was over-the-air updates. Updating this operating system is an absolute nightmare, and I think most people don't do it because the file size is huge from their website. You have to go to the website, download this massive file. Some people, it takes days to download because they include the ROMs. It's ridiculous. So what I would say is they need an over-the-air update that just updates the operating system. I mean, a lot of these devices do have Wi-Fi. That would be ideal, and I think it is a glaring misstep. It's a thing that is obviously missing in these devices. And like I said, the system is just ugly. The icons are gross. The backgrounds that you can choose are like I would never use them. So the operating system, if this is sitting on your desk and you're like, wow, that is such a pretty device, and you pick it up and you're like, yuck, obviously once you're playing a game, you don't care about that. But for a lot of people like myself, that user experience is very important. And there are those few missing links in the operating system that can be quite frustrating. There's no auto resume, so you power on and it plays the game that you're playing, which would be ideal on a device like this. That being said, Anbernic are updating this firmware with every iteration. It gets better and better every time, and I struggle to find anything that I really, really didn't like in the functionality. RetroArch works well. I've gotten used to the dual system and gotten over my gripe about that, but my only gripe left is the over-the-air update. I think the functionality is actually really nice. They've chosen great filters, and there's a lot of things that I'd be like, oh, I'm missing out on that if I move to a custom firmware. So it is a good system. Okay, so here's an easy fix to the operating system, because minUI is a simple system that is non-destructive. You can roll it back to your Anbernic system anytime you want, but it makes the user interface more pretty and simple, more fitting to this. It brings auto-resume, so it auto-resumes from the last game you played. So if you shut it down, it'll just open up to the last game you played where you were playing it with an autosave. So that is fantastic. It doesn't have the same overlay filters that I enjoyed from the Anbernic system, but it does implement it in a very simple way to just put your own filters and colors over your games and make them look pretty. So that does work very well. So here's how to do it. It's a 2-card installation process, so you'll need 2 SD cards. Use the existing SD card and then a second SD card. So if you already have a second SD card, format it to exFAT using something like Minitool Partition Wizard, but I would recommend just using a new SD card for the TF2 slots, the second SD card slots on this side of the device. Go to the link in my description below and download minUI, the base version. Take your new SD card, maybe about 64 gigabytes, power down your device, place the SD card into slot 2, and power up the device. What this is going to do is format the card in the correct way and put the right folders on the card that you need. And then once the device has fully started up, then just power it off again. Now remove TF1. So remove the card on this side of the device. We're going to start with TF1. Now place that into your computer using your SD card reader. And then from your zipped base folder that you downloaded from minUI, unzip that folder, and within there you're going to see an RG40XX Plus folder, and drag the dmenu.bin file to the root of your TF1 card. So don't open any folders in that SD card, just drag it to the main folder, the root of that SD card. Now just eject that SD card and place it back in your device that is powered down. Now take out TF2, the one on this side of your device. Take this SD card out, use your SD card reader and place it back into your computer. Now in the main folder of your download, your minUI base download, you'll see a zipped minUI folder. Don't unzip that folder, just drag it straight into the root of your second SD card. So don't open any folders on your SD card, just drag it straight into there. Now eject that second SD card, place it in your device, and power up your device. It's as simple as that, and now it will install minUI and you will pretty much be off to the races. The only thing left to do is to populate that second SD card with your ROMs. So you can power it off again, go back and add your ROMs as you see fit. Apart from the limited controls, this screen makes for a very novel PS experience and the form factor. Nintendo DS is actually set up very well on this console, so you've got the triggers to switch between formats and switch between screens, so that's really nice. Game Boy Advance, play Good Boy. Go buy Good Boy and play Good Boy. You can get the ROM and you must play it. Game Boy Color, very nicely set up on here by Anbernic. PSP, you're not going to get a flawless PSP experience, but you are going to get a nice experience. You just have to fix that screen stretching that they've enabled. N64, also not a flawless experience, but you're going to play most games very well. Here in Deep Cover Gecko 3 is where I started to see the snapping of the cardinals with the joystick to be a problem. Game Gear looks wonderful on the screen. Game Boy looks very nice with the way that they've set it up. Mega Drive, they've put a nice overlay on the Mega Drive, also looks wonderful on the screen. It's actually a really nice Pico 8 emulator. I would just recommend that you go buy the Pico 8 emulator, not just use it for free. I prefer NES to be stretched to a 4x3, but they also set it up by 8x7 and had an overlay there, a Famicom overlay. And then obviously Super Famicom or Super NES is going to look wonderful here. So I've left the conclusion, you can see I'm in a change of clothes, to the end, going through my video and giving you the one key thing that would convince you to buy this over everything else. And the reason is that it is the most affordable and the only, apart from their own RG4005 and now the 406V, vertical device with a 4-inch screen.